Alexander Harrington was one of the wealthiest men in the city, a tech billionaire whose name appeared on magazine covers and whose company revolutionized artificial intelligence. At 55, he had everything money could buy: private jets, luxury penthouses, and a collection of rare cars. But lately, he felt a growing emptiness. His wife had passed away years ago, and his only son was too busy with his own empire to visit. Alexander often disguised himself in simple clothes to escape the spotlight and experience normal life. One rainy afternoon, he decided to visit a small neighborhood grocery store in a modest part of town. Dressed in a worn jacket and jeans, he looked like any ordinary customer. He filled his cart with basics: bread, milk, fruits, and some canned goods. At the checkout, the total came to just over $100. Alexander pulled out his black platinum card, the one with no limit, and swiped it confidently. The machine beeped loudly. "Declined," the cashier said awkwardly, her face flushing. Alexander frowned and tried again. Beep. Declined. A line formed behind him, people shifting impatiently. He pulled out another card, his personal one. Declined again. Panic set in. How could this happen? He was worth billions. Perhaps a system glitch or fraud alert. He hadn't notified his bank about traveling incognito. The cashier looked sympathetic but firm. "Sir, I'm sorry, but I can't process it." Whispers started in the line. Alexander felt humiliation burning his cheeks. For the first time in decades, he was powerless because of money, or the lack of access to it. That's when a small voice piped up from behind him. A little girl, no older than 10, stood there with her mother. She had messy braids, worn sneakers, and a patched backpack. Her mother was holding a few cheap items, counting coins nervously. The girl tugged at her mom's sleeve. "Mommy, can we help him?" Her mother hesitated, glancing at the total on the screen. "Honey, we barely have enough for our own things." But the girl insisted, her big brown eyes fixed on Alexander. He looked sad. "And it's not much for all that food." Alexander turned, surprised. The girl stepped forward boldly. "Mister, I have some money saved." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled envelope. Inside were bills and coins, perhaps from chores or birthday gifts. It looked like around $50. But the total was more than that. The girl looked at the cashier. "Can I pay for some of his stuff?" The cashier nodded, unsure. Then, the girl did something no one expected. She turned to the people in line. "Everyone, this man needs help. His card isn't working. Can we all chip in a little? Like, $1 each?" The store fell silent. Alexander stared in disbelief. Here he was, a billionaire, about to be bailed out by strangers, and led by a poor child. One by one, people started pulling out cash. $1 here, 5 there. An old man added 10. A teenager contributed from his wallet. Even the cashier threw in some change from the take-a-penny tray. In minutes, they collected enough to cover the bill. The girl beamed proudly as she handed the money over. Alexander's groceries were bagged, and he stood there, speechless. The unthinkable had happened. A poor little girl had organized a community to rescue a stranger's dignity. As he loaded his bags, the girl approached him shyly. "It's okay, mister. Sometimes things happen." Alexander knelt down, his eyes misty. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." He wanted to reveal who he was, to reward her immensely, but something held him back. He needed to know more about this child with such a big heart. Alexander left the store that day transformed. The humiliation faded, replaced by profound gratitude. He drove home in his modest rental car, part of his disguise, and immediately called his bank. It was indeed a fraud alert. His cards were frozen temporarily. But that wasn't what occupied his mind. It was the little girl. He returned to the neighborhood the next day, still incognito. He learned from locals that her name was Mia, and she lived with her single mother in a tiny apartment. Her mom worked 2 jobs as a cleaner, and they struggled to make ends meet. Mia collected recyclables after school to help pay for groceries and dreamed of becoming a teacher to help others. Alexander watched from afar as Mia helped an elderly neighbor carry bags, shared her lunch with a homeless man, and organized kids to clean the park. Her kindness wasn't a one-time act, it was who she was. Despite having so little, she gave so much. Touched deeply, Alexander decided to do something. He contacted a trusted aide and arranged anonymous help at first, groceries delivered to their door, utility bills paid quietly. But he wanted more. He revealed his identity to Mia's mother in a private meeting, explaining the grocery store incident without exaggeration. Her mother was stunned, tears streaming down her face. Mia always says kindness comes back around. Alexander nodded. Your daughter reminded me what's truly valuable in life. He set up a trust fund for Mia's education, enough to cover college and beyond. He offered her mother a better job at one of his foundations, with fair pay and benefits. And he built a community center in the neighborhood, named after Mia's idea of Helping Hands Hub, where people could get food, job training, and support. Mia, upon learning who the sad Mr. really was, hugged him tightly. I didn't do it for money. I just wanted to help. Alexander smiled, adopting her informally as a granddaughter figure. He visited often, no longer in disguise, sharing meals and stories. Years later, Mia graduated top of her class and became a teacher, inspiring countless kids with her story of compassion. Alexander, now in his later years, found the family he longed for. The poor little girl's unthinkable act, rallying strangers to help a billionaire in need, had not only saved his groceries that day but restored his faith in humanity. It proved that true wealth isn't in bank accounts but in the heart. And sometimes, the smallest person can make the biggest difference.